And so, home industry comes on strong. You guys know about the 10-footers, you know, you've got 3 or 4 that I've seen. The cobbler shop in the, next to the Grace Staley house. Cobbler.
Yeah.
Cobbler shop, okay, fine, anyway, there's small industry. It's always going on. Sometimes it's out here where you can see it, but often it's in the L. So here's a Kennebunk farmer, and so here he is, and here's his family, and he grows apples, chickens, pigs, and just like anybody else, but what's this? It's a carriage, buggy, carriage, okay? This farmer made this buggy in this L. Okay? It's that kind of thing. Now, carriages are specialized. Not every average farmer does that. But that's the kind of thing that's happening over and over in New England. And so, they were advised, unlike any other farmers in America, and this is a rare publication here because they didn't do it so often, they didn't picture it, because nowhere else were they picturing or advising farmers to do this. And if you have a model farm, build this for a Maine farmer. This is 1857, Agricultural Journal. Here's what they said in the journal. Because they never could outright say, do a connected farm, it's the future, it's modernization. Because nowhere else in America was doing that, and by this time they were getting hit hard by the agricultural press throughout the entire country. I've read these articles over there. New England farmers, why can't they get their act together? And all that. They're losing people and all that. But the article here says, farmer, should you have a farm where you find your buildings relatively close together, you could find it to your advantage to straighten and connect them together to make your farm more efficient for the multiple agricultural activities that you have to house, the little bit chickens, the little bit pigs, and all that. Nowhere else in the country are they doing that except in New England. It's thrust on them. It's the only possibility for their agriculture. And these are Yanks, and they choose it. And this is evangelical farm reform, okay? You've got evangelical people. You've got prohibition, abolition, religious revival. Just whipping through this place. Agricultural revival. That's what we see here on a very high standard. And whatever else you want to say about that, they did it. And they go for this symbol of agricultural wherewithal and modernization of connected buildings. It's like a style. It goes and you can question a little bit, but it comes on strong. And these are Yanks, and these are New Englanders, right? They build with a vengeance. I mean, I'm a city kind of guy and all that. You build a ranch house, but these people, they keep on building. Look at this. This is a skyscraper laid horizontally. Okay? It's modernization is what we have here. I wouldn't say modernization. There's a 3-bay barn, added to another 3-bay barn, added to another 3-bay barn over there. Okay? These Yanks build like no one I know. If this type of architecture was the architecture of wealth and cost a farmer a lot, you wouldn't get 75% of farmers to do it. This is a low cash economy. This is a vast investment, even for a well-off farmer in some ways. Average farmer, you've got to make it work. And they could make it work. And one of the ways they could make it work and take an average farm and make it modern is simply, as I showed before, is to move a building with oxen, because they use oxen every winter day of their life, they're dragging timber around. No electricity, no plumbing, no foundation bolts. Piece of cake, okay? When you see a community that has a record of building movement, it'll look like playing Monopoly. It's like things are moved around. Average farmers moving their buildings around all the time. Okay, so it seems odd, but it happened. And we can prove this. It's very hard to record because it doesn't get in the paper so often, and things like that historically. There it is. An average farmer diary, a typical diary entry for an average farmer would be, Josephus, his son, takes our oxen down to the Smith place, and they drag the house across the road to do something. Okay? Absolutely, over and over in farm diaries, you hear that. Here's a team of horses and oxen pulling a schoolhouse here in the early 20th century over here. Oxen dragging them another building. And just for dramatic effect, because Yankees, they surprise me. I come from a Polish Catholic background, so churchyards are always very sacred. I mean, you guys rip up your churchyard, ways that it'll surprise me a little bit. I wasn't trained that way in some ways. There's nothing religious about moving houses and changing, ripping it, because that's part of your gene pool, I guess, or something like that. And you do that. You change things all the time. So let's watch this one over here, okay? Here's a Cape Cod house. Here's the front, here's a side door over here. So the Cape Cod is moved to the Cape Cod. You see this Cape Cod, what happened to it? It was raised up in the air, let's say about 15 feet over here. This is called cribbing. Where was that house that the barn was raised on cribbing, near the...
The grist mill? At the grist mill, the house there.
Okay, there's a barn being raised on cribbing right now. It's an average thing. There are small screw jacks and all that. I could take an average building down the road or something like that. You give me a little screw jack like that, and I could raise it, just like these guys raise it over there. You screw a little bit, you put a little shim under it, you keep on going around the place, and you raise it up in the air. Okay, it seems magical, but it isn't, okay? So it's average. So here's your Cape Cod house, okay? And it's 15 feet in the air. Here's some guys on the ground. Here's some guys that are up on the top. So 15 feet over here, right? It's floating up in the air. Keep your eye on the house. Here's your Cape Cod house. Go to Bethel, Main Street. You can see this one over there. It's a little more radical than most, but not hardly unusual. Usually, if you want to do a second floor, I just prefer the second floor raising. You blow off the roof and you raise the studs on top of it, and you make a second floor. These are Yanks. They do it all the time. They do it consistently, and that helps to tell us something about the velocity of these houses. If I just summarize about these connected farms and why they did it, they made these connected farms for efficiency, to make a functional, efficient farm. But now you've got to say something else. For the agricultural operation of mixed farming and home industry, which wasn't what anybody else was choosing at the time. So they made efficient an agricultural operation that was a little archaic, but it was the only opportunity left to them. They could not go one crop. Now, in the 20th century, they finally did go one crop where they got bulk milk, bulk cattle. And when you got 100 head of cattle, you think you make a connected farm? No, never. You don't do that. You may have had a connected farm, and then all of a sudden you can brew bulk milk, and then you add onto it and all that. But they didn't do it. So you made a connected farm because it modernized this agricultural operation, which is a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they maximized it. And there you are. It's a beautiful piece of architecture. So just two more. This is a beautiful example of change that was accomplished. This is a Cape Cod house that was modernized. What are these windows called? 9/6s? Where were they used to be? They were right here. We ripped them out. 9/6. I know some of you want a week now and all that. But we put it on the pigsty over here. That's about what we do. That. Anyway, we modernize. Okay, we rip out the fireplaces. We put the stove chimneys in there. Modernization, and that's what's going on. We build a new barn in the new style over here. There used to be an English barn, and we drag a building into line between house and barn and connection. They made a connected farm. This happened hundreds of thousands of times in New England. And if you want to say Snow did this or something like that, I'd say, I don't think the facts support that. I think there's snow is out there. It has a little to do with it and all that. But is that the reason that hundreds of thousands of farmers connected their farms together during a relatively short period of time? I think we have to look for other answers about that. So they modernized and, sorry, I'm losing this here. Okay. And what's this? They planted some sugar maples. Okay. Any sugar maples trees out here? What's this?
Dooryard.
This is a dooryard, but what else is here? Rocks. Okay. Ohio, they don't have rocks like this. Okay. Send a postcard to Ohio and it's going to look like this. But what's going to happen to those rocks? We're going to do that. Have you ever seen a house of any caliber with this kind of rocks in the front yard in front of that? You haven't. Because, like a religious commandment, we're going to clean and whiten and straighten it out, and they are going to do it. I can say this with absolute certainty, okay? Because I've watched these farmers do it. I have a quote from Tobias Walker's son, Edwin, and his diary. He says, I removed the rocks today that my father and grandfather mowed around for 80 years. His father and his grandfather, presumably they mowed it up, but he moved them. I understand that. I've moved rocks. And I understand why. You don't have to, but you're possessed. And these people are possessed in a way And they should have not made it. They should have been defeated by the cards that were stacked against them. But they survived. If this is your people, it's a great story. I mean, finally, like all farmers, small farmers, they're driven out of agriculture somehow. Some survive into the 20th century and all that. But they made it.